Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple of holiday cards that are only die cuts. I did not do any splatter or add any bling. I know, shocker. However, I did a lot of die cutting and created a couple fun scenes, and specifically a call out to these little characters, which you would have seen in the thumbnail. This is the exclusive little limited edition Tim Holtz Wafer die set that they have done. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? So this was done with Simon Says Stamp. This is the fourth year they've done this. And the only way you can get this die set is if you place an order at Simon Says Stamp. I'll have the link in the info directly below. And if you order $25 worth of Tim Holtz brand products, which there's Tim Holtz wafer dies, there are Tim Holtz the stamp sets, his Distress ink line, tonic tools with Tim Holtz, like there's a lot. And I will have a link to the Tim Holtz category as well. So if you order $25 before shipping, taxes, etc., you can get this little die set for free. You can technically order just the die set, but it is $25. Might as well get other products and get this for free. Again, it's limited edition. It's only available while supplies last. I don't think they'll sell out today. I'm pre-filming this, but it's going up for Cyber Monday as part of a pre-DieCember deal. Again, Simon does a DieCember release the beginning of December, and lots of wafer dies, all those fun things. They've been doing that for several years now. I forget exactly when it started, but that's coming soon. But this is Cyber Monday, just extra celebratory things. So I created some scenes with these little guys. They're absolutely adorable. Had loads of fun with them. And yeah, like I said, all the info will be below. I think that kind of wraps all of that up. And if you keep watching, I'll show you guys how I made these cards. And then at the very end of the video, I will link to my 2023 holiday playlist where I've got all the other videos I've done so far with everything I've made. So you can check that out as well. And yeah, let's get into the actual card making. So obviously the first step in creating a die cut scene card is to do the die cutting. I'm using one of my little mini die cut machines. I do not have a link for this one. The one I'm using is from Honeybee Stamps. Tim Holtz has a little mini, the little SIDEKICK mini. That's a great machine. Hero Arts has one. Like many brands have little mini die cut machines. And honestly, they're awesome. I remember when they first kind of came on the market many, many years ago. And I was like, okay then. And then I got one just because I was curious. I always like to try new things. And I use my mini die cut machines so much, like more than I ever thought, because it's especially when you're doing little sets like this or just ones where you need multiples of and they're small. My little mini die cut machines get a workout. Can you use a regular machine? Totally. 100%. You know, whatever works for you. For me, especially with these guys, I'm going to show kind of everything, like just one pass in a sense, like die cutting the pieces. But I was doing everything multiples because I did 2 cards, so I made 4 penguins, etc. So I did a lot of die cutting. This is also why I keep all of my cardstock scraps, even little ones, because there's always, especially nowadays, I've always got little dies, you know, little wafer dies that I can die cut, just little small scraps of, you know, so I just keep them all in a bin more often than not. And then larger pieces like this, I just separate, cut apart, etc. And I use them. You know, if you don't use all your scraps or you're not big in die cutting, well, this video is not for you. But yeah, I end up using them. They just come in handy for so many things. So you can kind of do whatever you want with Walter, how, you know, what kind of colors you want to use. You know, you don't even have to do traditional penguin colors. You know, you can, sky's the limit, really. But I went mostly kind of traditional with these guys because they're just cute. Yeah. And I will show in a couple of minutes, like all the pieces just laid out as they're like kind of meant to be. But and this is another one of those things, especially with Tim Holtz wafer dies. If you are at all familiar with some of his die sets, like they can look very, very overwhelming at first glance. Even a small one like this, there's a lot of little pieces, but once you get everything kind of laid out, it's like, oh, okay, it makes perfect sense, you know? So it's one of those things where it's like, you just got to sit down, do it once, you know, assemble it once, and then everything just kind of comes together. And this one is actually quite simple. And all of the little accessories, like the little scarves and the bow tie and the little Santa hats, they're all connected. So that makes it a little easier as well. So you're not like, what is this random strange shape? You know, it's like, oh, they're connected. So it's like, oh, those two pieces, that's the bow tie. These two pieces, that makes the scarf. There's 4 little pieces that make the Santa hat. And yeah, they're all connected. And then that one little tiny one right at the bottom of the screen there on top of the yellow cardstock, that die cuts the pieces for his little beak and his feet. So you just go through and die cut. And that's what I did. And I laid everything out, and I'll show all those pieces before I actually get to assembling this. So I've got little piles. I've shown this in other videos. I will usually, depending on what I'm planning on doing, I will have just little dedicated piles of certain colors of cardstock. And that helps, especially when I'm doing multiples, you know, if I'm doing multiple cards or multiple pieces of something, etc. So I'll just kind of go through that. So you can't see it all on screen because I have designated piles. I'm sometimes organized with things like this. I'm a little more organized than I am in any other aspect of my crafting. But I keep this stuff a little more organized because, yeah, all these little wafer dies, when I was done using them, I was putting them in one of my little triangle trays so I didn't lose them because, you know, some of these are small. And yeah, I keep my little dedicated piles. After they're die cut, I lay everything out and I set all the dies, you know, either with the little piles or I would set them aside. And this is all the die cut pieces from this one little die set. So I die cut everything, like the 3 pieces in black cardstock for his body, so you can't really see it very well on screen. But there are little etch line details as well that get debossed when you die cut them, so it makes it like extra easy to line everything up. And you could definitely do like a darker gray, or again, go totally outside the box and make them purple. Purple penguins, why not? You know, sky's the limit. It's just whatever you want it to be. But I did those layers from black cardstock, and yeah, there's little deboss lines, so it makes it super easy to line up the pieces. So that one layer with the white, I put just a little bit of washi tape behind it, and then I had poked the little eyes out of that one die cut piece and then inlaid them into that white cardstock. You could skip that completely because when you layer everything up, as long as the base is black, that will show through, but I like inlaying it. I just think it looks a little bit better. And then you just start to assemble. And then this piece I just did from a very light gray cardstock. For all of my scenes, I was using, I think, pretty much all Simon Says Stamp color cardstock. Again, I had all this in my little scrap bin, so I'm not 100% certain, but that's pretty much the bulk of what I, work with is Simon Says Stamp cardstock and like Concord 9th cardstock. My Favorite Things cardstock's really good. Hero Arts cardstock. Lawn Fun cardstock. Any of those ones I use a lot. Spellbinders, that's another one. And they're all just like good weights and not super thin and flimsy. And yeah, that'll come into play more with some of the other elements of my scenes. So assembling this little dude, it also helps to have, I just have my little craft tacky glue in a tiny Gina K precision bottle. That does help. Another option is to do like the Tim Holtz method where you run your cardstock pieces through like a Xyron machine and put adhesive on the back. That is another option. I don't do that hardly ever, honestly. I just, because I'm comfortable using my liquid glue. And with the fine tip, I can do these little tiny finicky pieces and it's all good. So I assembled that little penguin there on screen, just like so. And again, there's little kind of like debossed lines, like even for that little kind of highlight there on his stomach, and then a little deboss area on his beak to add that little highlight. So it kind of gives you those little visual cues of where to adhere the pieces, plus the packaging. And yeah, it again, once you do it once, it just everything makes sense. And then the accessories, it's pretty obvious. Like the bow tie, the one little piece goes on top of the other, creates this little bow tie. The scarf, that one piece with the holes and the debossing on it goes on top of the solid piece, and you're good to go. And then he's got glasses, and seriously, love it. Love it. Again, little pieces can be a little finicky, but you can't not have the accessories. It just makes everything so much fun. And he looks so derpy with the glasses. I love it. You could also die cut the glasses from like metallic cardstock and make them into like sunglasses. That would look really cute too. I thought about it, but I prefer just the look of glasses, and because it makes them look kind of derpy. Anyway, to create the scenes, I pulled out some newer plus some oldie die sets. The newer ones are these bottle brush trees that Simon released. I think it was the beginning of this month. You guys, my sense of time is just so off. But anyway, Simon had 2 different sizes of bottle brush tree wafer dies. And I used those and die cut scraps of green cardstock with them. They do also include a die that you can use in the back. You can kind of see it there on the packaging. So you can back these with that, a different color, etc. I didn't use that. I just used like the actual bottle brush trees, and you just kind of wiggle it because these are very kind of finicky, and that is where you want like a kind of heavier weight cardstock. It works. So it takes a little bit of wiggling to remove them from the scraps, but then it's good to go. So I die cut the bottle brush trees from different pieces of green cardstock, and then I used the layered hills wafer dies. This is what's going to really create my scene. This one came out, I think, like 3 years ago, something. Everything is still available. I will have links to everything like I always do in the description box below the video, along with this icy igloo wafer die. This also came out like last year or the year before. I'm not even sure. But I remembered I had it, and I was like, oh, I've even got their house. So I used the little Santa hats, and I ended up using the extra pieces because you run it through with the dark red cardstock and the lighter red cardstock to get the highlight, and I just reversed, like, used the pieces left over. So I had Santa hats for all my penguins because I went Christmas theme with mine. So they're all wearing their little Santa hats, like they're all decked out for the holidays. And then I just used like a panel of, I think it was Audrey blue cardstock. That'll be my card fronts, and then a darker, I'm not sure if this is peacock. I'm trying to remember offhand like the names of all the colors, but again, just anything's going to work. So use that for kind of the water, and then the layered hills wafer dies I die cut from just white scraps of white cardstock. And those are kind of creating like almost like big sort of snowdrifts or icebergs, that sort of thing, depending on, how you want to go with this, or just snow covered hills. Because I'm adding the bottle brush trees as well. To adhere the bottle brush trees, I just run a line of glue just down the trunk. And that's it. I'm not going to bother adding adhesive to every little bit. Same with like the little sun. I just added adhesive to the center. Left it. And I created my scene on that first card, the one on the left. I had created it off camera, adhered everything onto the other one, and now showing like on camera how I, adhere everything. So I adhered my little like icebergs, snowdrifts, whatever. Those little birds, that's from the layered hills die set as well. And that's why I keep little scraps, because I just die cut tiny little scraps of black cardstock to get those into place. Reverse tweezers for the win. Those come in really handy with assembling small die cuts, along with my embellishment wand. Again, I'll have links to all of that with the supplies. So I created my little scenes with all of these die cut elements. And the parts that were hanging off, I didn't show that on camera, but I just flipped it around like I show in a ton of other videos. I just flipped it over and just used my scissors and the edge of the main cardstock panel as a guide and trimmed off the little bits that were hanging off. So the sun and the snowbanks and the edge of the one tree. And then for my sentiments, I'm using Simon Says Stamps sentiment strips. This was the Christmas greetings sentiment strips. And I just used the newest Tim Holtz trimmer. I talked about this in a recent video as well, because my order for this had shown up. And yeah, I like it. It's a typical slide trimmer. The biggest difference with this one versus any of the other ones I've ever, owned and used is it's got those little bumps on it so that you don't have to lift that ruler guide. But 20 years of habit, I still lift the ruler constantly. It'll be interesting to see if I ever break that habit, because like 2 decades of making cards and using the trimmers where you have to flip the ruler up. I still, it's just habit. Anyway, I use that to trim the sentiment strips. And then my card bases are just Neenah Desert Storm cardstock, and they're top folding A2 note cards. So I adhered my card fronts to the card bases. And then on the inside of the cards, I had die cut just the small bottle brush trees from the same green cardstocks, adhered those, adhered another Christmas sentiment strip, and that finished off these cards. Like I said, no splatter, no bling. There was no need for it with these. The scene is the focus, these little penguins, everything. You totally could, though. You could add a bit of splatter. You could add, white gel pen highlights if you want to really zhuzh it up. Again, the sky's the limit, but I was happy with how these turned out. And like I mentioned in the intro and during the video, I will have links below the video to all the information, the supplies, etc. So you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.